The Aston Martin AMR26 has finally broken cover, and it is arguably the most talked-about machine of the 2026 pre-season. But for the first few days in Barcelona, the story wasn't about the car's speed. It was about its silence. While Mercedes and Ferrari were busy racking up hundreds of kilometers, the Aston Martin garage remained firmly shut. The days ticked by, the rumors grew louder, and the paddock began to ask, has Adrian Newey's first ground-up design for the team hit a fatal problem before it even turned a wheel? The answer is a mix of extreme ambition and worrying reality. This is the car that was supposed to change everything. The car that would mark Aston Martin's arrival as a genuine championship contender. The car that would prove Lawrence Stroll's billion-dollar investment wasn't just vanity, but vision. And yet, while every other team was out there learning their machines, gathering data, refining their setup windows, the AMR26 sat motionless behind closed doors. It was a silence that spoke volumes. To understand the delay, you have to understand the designer. Adrian Newey is a perfectionist who utilizes every available second. He is not a man who rushes. He is not a man who compromises. He has won 25 world championships across 4 different teams, and he has done it by obsessing over details that other designers consider irrelevant. We know that the car was flown to Barcelona on a cargo plane at the very last minute. Reports suggest Newey refused to sign off on the aerodynamic package until he was absolutely certain, identifying inconsistencies between the simulator and the wind tunnel over the winter. The discrepancies were small, fractions of a percentage point in downforce efficiency, but to Newey, those fractions matter. They are the difference between pole position and the second row, between a podium and 5th place. This wasn't just a production delay, it was a philosophical one. He pushed the timeline to the breaking point to ensure. This wasn't just a production delay, it was a philosophical one. He pushed the timeline to the breaking point to ensure the AMR26 was the most advanced car on the grid. He squeezed every last hour out of the development window, refusing to release the car until it met his exacting standards. And looking at the bodywork, he might have succeeded. Because this car is unlike anything else on the grid. This car is a rejection of conventional thinking. The technical experts are calling it extreme, and the focal point is the side pods, or rather, the lack of them. Newey has resurrected the zero-pod concept, but evolved it beyond what Mercedes attempted in 2022. The traditional wide cooling inlets are gone. Instead, we see these upward-facing periscope inlets with funnel-like openings. They look almost alien, like something designed for a different formula entirely. By raising the intakes, he has created a massive, cavernous undercut between the chassis and the floor. This allows a vast volume of clean air to rush toward the rear diffuser. It is designed to delete drag, to make the car slippery through the air, to give it straight line speed that the others simply cannot match. But the risk is immense. These 2026 engines are hot. The new power unit regulations have pushed thermal management to the absolute limit. Every team is struggling with cooling. And Newey has just made the problem exponentially harder by shrinking the cooling inlets to the size of letterboxes. If those tiny periscope openings cannot feed enough air to the radiators, this aerodynamic masterpiece will cook itself within 5 laps. The engine will overheat. The electronics will fail. The car will be fast for precisely 1 qualifying lap before it becomes a very expensive paperweight. It is a gamble, a calculated gamble certainly, but a gamble nonetheless. The innovation continues at the front. The nose has a wide, pelican-style beak, reminiscent of the dominant Red Bulls of the early 2010 seconds, designed to force air aggressively under the chassis. That nose shape is Newey's signature. He has used variations of it for over a decade, and it works. It conditions the airflow before it reaches the floor, ensuring that the underbody generates maximum downforce. And then there is the suspension. While most of the grid has converged on a pull rod front layout, Newey has stubbornly stuck with push rod. But look closely at the wishbones. They are mounted in extreme, unusual positions. The angles are unconventional. The pickup points are asymmetric. He isn't placing them there for mechanical grip. He is using the suspension arms as aerodynamic turning vanes. He is manipulating the air before it even touches the side pods. Every component on this car has a dual purpose. The brake ducts guide airflow. The suspension arms shake vortices. Even the driver's mirrors are positioned to manage the wake. It is classic Newey. Everything serves the airflow. Nothing is wasted. Every surface, every edge, every curve is working to generate downforce or reduce drag. This is not a car designed by committee. This is the work of a singular mind with a singular vision. But a fast car is useless if it doesn't finish. And this is where the dream met a harsh reality. When Lance Stroll finally took the car out for its debut on Thursday afternoon, the expectations were sky high. The photographers crowded the pit wall. The rival teams sent their engineers to watch. Everyone wanted to see what Newey had created. The car completed the installation lap. It looked fast even at low speed, the bodywork tight and aggressive. Stroll brought it back into the pits. The systems were checked, and he was sent out for a proper run. 4 laps. That's all it managed. 4 laps before the car ground to a halt on the exit of Turn 9, smoke billowing from the rear. Stroll climbed out, the marshals pushed the car to safety, and the red flags came out. It was the worst possible start. The team worked through the night. They stripped the power unit, analyzed the data, and found the fault. A sensor failure, they said. A minor issue, they said. Nothing fundamental. But when Fernando Alonso took over on Friday, the problems continued. The car was slow to fire up. It hesitated on the pit limiter. And while Alonso did manage to complete 61 laps, a respectable number in isolation, it was nowhere near enough. By the end of the week, Aston Martin had completed a grand total of 65 laps. Compare that to Mercedes, who logged over 500. Compare it to Ferrari, who completed 420. Compare it to McLaren, who ran 380. This is a massive deficit. This is not a small gap that can be closed with a software update. Honda, returning as a full factory partner after their successful stint with Red Bull, needs mileage to calibrate the new power unit. They need to understand the thermal behavior, the fuel consumption patterns, the energy recovery characteristics. Instead, they spent the week in the garage, staring at telemetry screens and trying to diagnose problems remotely. They are heading to the official test in Bahrain effectively blind, with almost no baseline data to work from. This is dangerous territory for a team with championship ambitions. Fernando Alonso, entering perhaps his final campaign at the age of 44, called driving the car a special moment. He is a man who has seen it all. He has driven dominant cars and disaster cars. He has won championships and endured seasons of humiliation. And when Fernando Alonso uses the phrase special moment, it means something. He knows the potential is there. He can feel it in the steering, in the balance, in the way the car rotates through the corners. But potential doesn't score points. Potential doesn't win races, and potential certainly doesn't win championships. The AMR26 is a high-risk, high-reward weapon. It is the only car on the grid that has truly broken the mold. It is the only car that looks genuinely different, genuinely innovative, genuinely brave. If they can solve the cooling issues and find reliability, if they can unlock the aerodynamic performance that Newey has designed into the package, they could embarrass the competition. They could challenge for wins. They could even challenge for the championship. But if they spend the first 3 races breaking down, if they spend the opening months of the season chasing gremlins and fixing failures, the season is over before it begins. In modern Formula One, you cannot afford to give away points early. The field is too tight, the competition is too strong. If Aston Martin arrives in Australia and retires from the race, if they arrive in Japan and suffer another power unit failure, they will be playing catch-up for the rest of the year. Adrian Newey has delivered a radical machine. A car that pushes the boundaries of the regulations. A car that challenges assumptions. A car that could redefine what is possible under the 2026 rules. Now the team must prove they can make it run. I want to know your assessment. Is the 65-lap debut a sign of a failed concept, or just the teething problems of a future champion? Has Newey taken too big a risk with the cooling package? Or is this simply the price of innovation, the inevitable struggles that come with building something truly different? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. We will be watching Bahrain very closely, because if this car works, if Aston Martin can unlock its potential, the 2026 season just got a whole lot more interesting.